So, all right. What was the name of the boat that they went out to kill the shark on?
Well, I know that they said they need a bigger one, but
yeah, bonus points if you can tell us who said that as well.
Yeah, that was Roy. No, that was not Roy. That was the guy who said we need a bigger boat is sort of the marine biologist. But let me think. The name of the boat.
So was it the Spanish Lady, the Indianapolis, the Orca, or Amity?
Spanish Lady.
Spanish Lady. I threw that in there as a trick answer because that is the song they sing, but it is the Orca. It is the Orca.
Okay.
It is the Orca.
Spanish Lady. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And, yeah. Farewell and adieu.
Yeah, that's it. Got it. Okay, thank you.
All right. Last question before a bonus lightning round here. So what did Chief Brody say right before, and this is a spoiler alert, I know the movie came out in 1975, but right before shooting the oxygen tank, blowing up the Great White?
Smile, you son of a bitch.
There you go. You got it. Nailed it. All right. Final little lightning round here. This is the lightning round, which I'm calling Grand Old Party or Great White Shark. So this is who said it, is this the mayor of Jaws or is this a Republican about COVID? And you get 1 point if you get it right and 2 points if you can tell us which Republican as well. Okay.
Oh my God. Okay.
The statement here is, it's easy to second guess reopening, but we've only had 3,000 deaths. We can't keep the economy shut down forever.
Well, that's a Republican.
Obviously. Absolutely.
Not the mayor of, Amity. And who said it? Can I ask? Is it someone in Texas or is it a national figure?
It is someone in Texas. Someone close to your heart.
Well, it's got to be Ken Paxton.
It's Ken Paxton in June 29th of 2020. So yeah, pretty early on. Awesome. All right, next one. August, for Christ's sake, tomorrow is the 4th of July. We'll be open for business. This is going to be one of the best summers we've ever had.
That was the mayor.
That was the mayor. All right, so my message is that let's get back to work. Let's get back to living. Let's be smart about it. And those of us who are 70 plus will take care of ourselves.
That sounds like a Republican politician.
That is a Republican in Texas.
And I'm going to say it's Dan Patrick.
That is Dan Patrick on March 24th of 2020. All right, 2 more. So this one says, look, fellas, let's be reasonable, huh? This is not the time or place to perform some kind of half-assed autopsy.
Yeah, so that was from Jaws.
That was from Jaws.
And I don't think it wasn't Roy Scheider. It wasn't the sheriff, right? It was the
that was the mayor. That was the mayor.
The mayor. Okay. All right.
Yep.
It was the mayor. Yeah.
All right.
Because those are my 2 choices.
That's your 2 choices. That's your 2 choices. Not trying to make it too complicated here. All right. Last one. All right. They're dying. That's true. And you know it. It is what it is.
God, that sounds like Donald Trump.
That was Donald Trump. You got it. And you won a Feds magnet. So congratulations.
Awesome. Sweet.
Now you guys can talk about whatever else you guys were going to talk about today.
Well done. I love that. That's great. That's got my juices going.
That's how we roll. We just throw you right into the firing line. All right. Well, Elaine Campbell is going to officially introduce you, Mr. Jaworski. So have at it, Elaine.
So I am very, very honored to do that. Texans love fighters, and that is exactly who Joe Jaworski is. Joe is a 3rd-generation Texas trial attorney. He's a former mayor of Galveston. Joe's term as mayor was defined by his unwavering support for and success in rebuilding Galveston's storm-devastated public housing. It was a political choice that made a very positive difference for thousands of island residents, but cost him a 2nd term. His family legacy is one of integrity and ethics. Joe's grandfather, Watergate Special Prosecutor Leon Jaworski, had the guts to take on President Nixon and Nixon's corrupt administration for fighting for justice in our nation's highest court. Leon Jaworski's legacy after Watergate, a family value which Joe honors daily, is no one is above the law. And this is why Joe is running for Texas Attorney General. In Texas, too many of our public officials do think that they're above the law. The tearing down of our institutions has led us to lose faith in our democracy. We need someone who can restore integrity to public service in Texas, someone who chooses right over wrong, someone who will use our legal system to fight for fairness and justice. And that's what Joe has done his entire career as a lawyer and as mayor. We need an attorney general with the courage of Joe's grandfather, the courage to stand up to the politically powerful. Joe is prepared to live up to that legacy. So I absolutely have the honor to introduce the next Attorney General of Texas, Joe Jaworski.
Elaine, well done. Elaine Campbell, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Well, Fed, this is great. I would like to say it is always good to be in Dallas. And I'd like to know, is there a general geographic area where we're talking about here in Dallas? I mean, I know it's funky. Is it like Deep Ellum or what? I mean, are we talking about the east side or what?
It's
South?
Funky East Dallas Democrats.
That's
Yeah.
what I thought. Okay. And I love that. Dallas is where my wife's from, and Dallas is definitely a stop on the tour when I was playing in a rock band for 4 years before I went to law school. The band retired. I like to use that phrase instead of broken up. They retired after 4 years of performing and recording and playing around the nation. But we'd always play at the Prophet Bar in Dallas. And there was another one that was right across the street, Theater Gallery. That's it. And this was 84, 85, 86, 87. Maybe it's because I'm a drummer and always had to sit in the back that I love to talk. Give me the mic. Give me the mic, coach. I've got something to say. Guys, this is good. I remember the young days, but when I went to law school, may I tell you, I remember meeting my wife in Austin, and we moved in together pretty quickly after we met. We were engaged right away and got married after our second year of law school. Third year of law school, as you guys know, for the lawyers on the call, is a pretty easy deal. A lot easier than the questions Chris was asking. And not so much stress and pressure. And so I remember like about a month into or a month away from graduation, I said to my wife, let me go to the grocery store. It was Wednesday at 11:30. I mean, you can see how easy things were. And I walk into the Fresh Plus at 43rd and Duval at 11:30 on a Wednesday morning. Produce is the first section you get into, and oh my God, whoa, there she was in produce. Governor Ann Richards shopping at the same time I was. And so we're talking May 1991. She's about 5 months into her term. And I just said, oh my God, I have to meet her. And I walked up, I said, Governor, please, I'm a law student, Joe Jaworski, I'd love to meet you. Well, she said, oh, Joe, I knew your grandfather. I mean, she put me at ease right away. And guys, I got to tell you, I wish I had a transcript of that conversation, but of course I don't. And even though I don't remember what was exactly said, I do remember how I felt. You know, that old phrase that you may not remember what someone said, but you do remember how they made you feel. Well, after speaking to Governor Ann Richards, I felt validated, optimistic. Above all, I felt hope. And why not? May 1991, are you kidding me? I mean, she's still doing her victory lap. We have a progressive government. I'm about to graduate and get a law degree. I'm about to join the system of justice, take the oath, protect the Constitution. We had a cool, professional governor who cared about people. The future was so bright in May 1991. Yes, it was. And then by 1994, Karl Rove and George Bush had pulled the business-friendly tort reform card and had wormed their way in the governor's mansion, defeating a really good woman. 4 years later, all the Democrats were gone. So by January 1999, John Cornyn was Attorney General. George Bush was governor. David Dewhurst was lieutenant governor. What wasn't he? So Bush, Perry, Abbott. Cornyn, Abbott, Paxton, Dewhurst, Patrick. Don't get me started on Sid Miller. But my point is, it's been over a generation since a Democrat has served in a statewide office in Texas. And we're showing the bruises and the scars for it, aren't we? It was only January when the Republican cult stormed our Capitol, which was not so much a loss of life as 9/11, but it was as cataclysmic. A month later, the energy capital of the globe was brought to its knees because its incompetent leadership allowed us to be humiliated on the world stage. They knew 10 years before Winter Storm Uri that winterization of our electrical generator equipment, natural gas and the like, even the solar, even the wind turbines, needed to be done. They had the information, they were warned, did nothing. It's all about freedom, you see. It's all about freedom. And this mantra has now turned into a culture war. And Fed, I have news for you. Their time has come. So come with me, won't you, over the next 12 months as we behold the most outrageous clown circus called the Republican primary. 2022 is going to show that the Republican Party's crack up is complete. It will be something that shocks the conscience of moderates, independents, and reasonable Republicans. They will join us if we give them the chance. We will, in November 2022, elect the first statewide, maybe the second and third at the same time, since 1998. That's my promise to you. That's what I'm in this for. Because when I had hope in 1991 and it was taken away rather suddenly, I must have numbed over, just like all of us. And, you know, we struggle and we vote and we do our best to recruit people. They gerrymander, they suppress, they lie, and make it all about culture issues, guns, sexual orientation, lies about the border. And this is the most profound way to deprive us of our freedom, our life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, all in the name of government. And it's not because they're doing a public service. They just want to keep their jobs because they can't imagine what it would be like to work in the private sector. Let me stop and just say this. It's even worse for Ken Paxton. I haven't said a bad thing about him yet, but because you put it up, Christy, on the share screen, let's go over a few of these things. I know I'm singing to the choir, but it bears repeating. Forget the Collin County indictment just for a minute. What's coming down the pike from San Antonio and Austin is going to shake his world. It is my belief that he will be indicted this time by the federal government, by the Department of Justice for abuse of office and bribery. It is my belief that in concert with that, the civil lawsuit, the whistleblower lawsuit brought by the leadership circle that he hired, all white men, all conservative, career-minded Republicans, people that don't really have an agenda to jack with Ken Paxton other than to serve him. So, you know, what they witnessed must have been so pervasive, must have so shocked their conscience that they felt they had no choice but to turn Mr. Paxton into the FBI. This at great risk, at great consequence to their well-being. Several of them are actually suing for injunctive relief to get their job back, which means they don't have a job right now. So it's not like they had the whole thing lined up. They did it, and actually, I respect them. I may not agree with them politically, but they showed bravery, just like Liz Cheney is, just like Mitt Romney is. My point to you is the Republican Party is having a crack up. You saw the New York Times today where Mr. Paxton was quoted because he said it in an article that was written and published today that he's not supporting Greg Abbott. The Republican Party is having a crack up, led by Colonel Allen West, the man who migrated west from Florida, who now is the GOP chair, who has adopted the mantra, "We are the storm." He denies that that has anything to do with QAnon and says it comes from a poem. He won't tell us which poem. Furthermore, he wants to secede, or he thinks that's a good idea. Here is my point. Reasonable voters in Texas need to be reminded of these things. The insurrection, the big lie, Winter Storm Uri, and the humiliation that Texas faced, the bruise, the black eye to Texas exceptionalism. And now they're going to ruin each other's pelts in a dogfight that is going to be something really to behold. Here's the other point. Elaine, Christy, Chris, all of you. The primary is going to be pushed back late into the summer, just like it was 10 years ago when Mr. Cruz snaked that victory over David Dewhurst. My point being is that the general election is going to be one of the shortest on record. It'll almost be like a snap election in Britain. And that may be 3-4 months if we're lucky. So when the final bell tolls on the Republican primary, I want that echo to resonate all the way through November 8th. If we do our job right, Mike Collier, myself, whoever the nominees are, then we ought to be in pretty good shape. But it's going to take everything we've got. We're going to have to be near perfect. But aren't you impatient? Aren't you just sick and tired of being sick and tired, as they say? That captures my disgust. And I think there's enough Texans who are going to do something about it. All right. We could go on about Mr. Paxton, but why don't I give you a taste of my platform, and then why don't we go for some Q&A? I want to be mindful of our time. If you go to my website, jaworskifortexas.com, Callie, why don't you put that link up? jaworskifortexas.com, F-O-R. You'll see a page called Priorities. And my platform, I think, goes well in a primary as well as a general, in rural as well as urban. East, west, north, and south. And it goes something like this. I will never embarrass you in the United States Supreme Court. I'll never file frivolous litigation in any court, state or federal. When General Joe Jaworski files, it will be to protect Texans' consumer rights, not to pull a political stunt. Number 2. As your Attorney General, I will support the Affordable Care Act, period, end of story. And what that means is finally we'll have a statewide constitutional executive who understands that we need the federal match drawdown for Medicaid, $5.6 billion every year. That's a lot of insurance for men, women, and children. And it will help sustain our vital network of rural hospitals. Now, that's the first time I've mentioned rural. Now, here's a third one. While the Attorney General doesn't pass laws, you're not a legislator. You are a thought leader, and you ought to use your statewide candidacy as a chance to be a walking referendum. So, like John Hill in 1972, long ago, when he asked the question as he was campaigning, why isn't there a direct lawsuit that consumers have to sue people that fraud them? Well, he was right. He couldn't pass it himself, but he was the first witness in front of the committee after he took the oath of office, and voila, was passed the Deceptive Trade Practices Act. So what is something these days whose time has come, but that seems to struggle in our very Republican legislature? What is something I, as a candidate, can campaign on that has a toehold in something involving the Attorney General? What is something popular? What is something that needs the support of a statewide candidate? Well, I think I know. At least there's this. I think we should legalize cannabis in Texas. And as Texas Attorney General, I will be a thought leader on this question. For these reasons, money, if we tax it at the moderate Colorado tax rate with a conservative number of people that we believe would purchase, it'll generate at least $1.1 billion a year for each legislature, for each budget. We also have a lot of veterans in our state, military contractors, and just chronic pain sufferers who will benefit from the palliative that cannabis is versus opioids. So in giving people a chance to use a wellness alternative to opioids, we can fight a winning war against addiction. Well, how about this one? Let's fund the police, and by legalizing cannabis, that's exactly what we'll do. $300 million a year if we remove this wasteful petty prosecution so that our prosecutors and our officers can focus on real crime, like white supremacist militiamen, domestic abuse, murder, rape, the cartel, and perhaps the most important reason, one whose time has come, long overdue, social and criminal justice reform. Fed, how long is Texas going to burden young adult lives, principally lives of color, by arresting them for possessing personal use amounts of a flower that grows out of the ground, putting them in private prisons so that somebody who got the right lobbyist can make a profit off their incarceration? That is a sick society for sure. I stand against it. So I want to be a thought leader on this, and that is why I have sought Willie Nelson's endorsement. That is why I have put ads out. That is why I am unapologetic that Texas needs to legalize cannabis. Like so many wise states in our union, why are we always last? Well, how about this one? Christy, I was a mayor, as you know, as Elaine said, mayor of Galveston. And so I mean this one. I think local government is the best. You bet it is. I mean, I used to have, it was so corny, a cup of Joe with Joe before every city council meeting. Yeah, we'd get there at 8 a.m. The meeting was at 10, and we'd bring about $100 worth of coffee from the hip coffee store. You guys would love it. Have you ever been to Galveston and gone to Mod Coffee Shop? It's downtown, right near the Tremont. It's where all the hipsters hang out, people playing music, and they have great coffee. And I had some campaign funds left over after I was elected, and I always made sure that my favorite coffee spot got endorsed by me. And so every 2 weeks, I would pay for the coffee. And there was no agenda, no rules, no security. People come, they just had to behave. We had 50 people usually, and people would just have a 2-hour conference, and I would answer their questions as best I could. And if I couldn't, I'd take notes. Hey, try and have coffee with Greg Abbott. It'll never happen. Try and have a sandwich, you know, or a coffee with Ken Paxton. No. He's too embattled. He'll never meet with you. But you can meet with your mayor, your council member, your county judge, your commissioner, your superintendent, your school board on parent night. You can go to these meetings and be heard. It's local to you. You can be heard. You can vote on referenda. If your people do you wrong, you vote them out. Local government is the best. And so why is it the Republican Party has waged a war on local government? It's like the Republicans have just decided to start hating on our most basic sense of identity, our hometown. So if you're in Corpus Christi and you think there needs to be a plastic bag ban because you're concerned about marine life, or if you're in Denton, nearby Dallas, I don't know how much fracking goes on in Denton, but if you think fracking's bad and you have enough votes on council, more power to you. Well, if you're in Kerr County down in the hill country on the banks of the mighty Guadalupe, and you're worried about the purity of the river, so you want to limit aggregate mining. Here's something Galveston and Austin have in common. When Uber came to town, the city's leadership said, look, we're happy you're here, but we don't trust your corporate background check. We want you to submit to our local police background check. And just this last November in Harris County, the great innovator, wonderful young man, Chris Hollins, our acting clerk, came up with so many great ways to vote. Drive-through voting, 24-hour voting for shift workers, expanded weekend voting, mail-in ballots to all registered voters, more ballot boxes. I mean, just all these great innovations. Every example I just gave you, from Corpus Christi to Chris Hollins, ruled illegal by Abbott, Patrick, and their consigliere, Mr. Paxton, sustained by their friends on the Texas Supreme Court. I'm telling you, the Republicans hate local government. And so if you want to have a mask ordinance or do it your way, they won't let you. They go and look at Washington and they say, hands off, states' rights. But that's where federalism ends for these people, because when they look down the pipe at cities and locals, they say, you're doing it wrong. Well, when I'm Attorney General, when I take the oath of office, I will give voice to the innovation, the incubators in the federalism society and system so that we can actually enjoy government out as it was intended. Let it be known that I will give voice to local innovation in my attorney general opinion section. If it's not patently illegal, let it be. So it's not just a liberal thing, you know. Abilene, they're coming for you next. Amarillo, you're next. Because they actually are trying to eliminate cities and counties from being able to hire lobbyists. I mean, how else are you supposed to navigate the Byzantine legislature, I ask you? 140 days every 2 years, that's ridiculous. So my view is let Abilene be Abilene, let Dallas be Dallas, let Houston be Houston, let Brownsville be Brownsville, etc. And then finally, and let's go to Q&A after this. You guys have been so generous with your attention. I appreciate you. Mr. Paxton, the big lie. Justin Nelson said indicted Attorney General Ken Paxton. I think we need to expand that. Indicted Ken Big Lie Paxton, or indicted, whistleblown, investigated Ken Big Lie Paxton. You could just go on and on and on. He is so proud of his voter fraud division, right? Isn't he? He goes on and on about all the voter fraud, and I object. I take exception to the notion. It's a misnomer. Fraud sounds like it's some organized, mafia-like enterprise. He knows about that in his own securities business. But what I would say is he's making a big to-do about a few mistakes that were made by people, because there's a difference between mistakes that voters make and candidates who really are corrupt and trying to game the system. And we can talk about gerrymandering in just a minute. We'll save it for the Q&A, but Mr. Paxton makes a big deal about voter fraud. And we know from his own website, he's so proud of it because he puts on there that he has successfully prosecuted 561 occasions of voter fraud. Now, I actually don't know what that means, successfully prosecuted. I know what convicted means. I know what indicted means, as does he, but I don't know what successful prosecution sounds like. He's playing games, but let's take him at his word. 561 since 2004. Now, all you got to do is go to Ballotpedia and look up the total number of votes in the 5 general elections since 2004 and the 4 midterm elections since 2004. I'm not even counting the local elections like you guys had in May, which, there would be like 20 of those. And you'll see the numbers like 100 million plus. So 100 million plus votes in Texas during this time and 561 successful prosecutions. Someone please do the math. It's probably like, the same percentage of carcinogen in the drinking water. Clearly, we don't have a problem. Clearly, we don't have a voter fraud problem, but we have a problem of voter fraud in the Republican Party because they are the ones who are suppressing our vote. Here's my promise to you, and I'll just quit gilding the lily. When I take the oath of office, okay, I'm going to take Ken Paxton's voter fraud division, and I will turn it into General Jaworski's, or maybe we could call it General Joe's, voter access division. Now, how about that? Think about that just for a minute, how that feels. Voter access, because you ought to be able to call the government when you get in line at 6:45, but they haven't reached you and they close the doors at 7:15. You ought to be able to get on the phone and call the government if your signature is rejected because some busybody thinks it looks wrong. You ought to be able to call the government if your voting rights, if your civil rights have been violated. That's another thing. There's no civil rights department in the current Attorney General's office. That is shocking. The last time there was when the last time we had a Democrat in the AG's office. Okay, I think you get a taste for where I'm headed on this. And every day a new thing comes up. So I am proud to be able to work with you. I want you to know, I heard you talking, Christy, about getting excited about a live meeting in June. Well, we've done now, this is our 61st appearance since January on the JAWS tour, okay, on the Joe Jaworski for AG tour. And our first live one was this last weekend in Bryan, Texas. It was awesome. People loved it. In the pouring rain at one point, we had 130 people there. So the hunger is there. And I'm telling you, the hope is real, and we're going to do it together because everybody knows that the next generation awaits. They're watching, and we need to let the people whose birthright it is to have a fair and equitable society in Texas, that what they're seeing now is not normal. We're going to go beat these guys because it's the right thing to do. And I am so proud to be able to work with fed and motivated Democrats and reasonable Republicans and independents and moderates across the state. Thank you for listening to me tonight.
Okay, guys, do you have questions for Joe Jaws? Put them in the chat. So as we're waiting for some questions to come, so why don't you tell us how best can we help you?
Right. Oh, great. Well, thank you for that, because that's a great way. I am a candidate. I am not going to self-finance my campaign, although I did write a $5,000 check on July 7th last summer. You would be so proud of me. I have now raised $550,000, a good, honest start for a Democrat who is funded by real wallet money. Okay. I have a few buddies with some money and they're helping me. And they aren't expecting anything in return other than, Joe, do right? Do the right thing. There's nobody who's got a deal they want and I'm going to go be their man or whatever you'd call it. So I'm asking you, number one, to please take a human wallet amount of money and crowdsource my campaign. It's the only way we're going to beat these people. If we can establish a great finance report, Christy, on June 30th, which is the next deadline, then it's going to attract the attention necessary. And I think national forces will get involved because Texas will have 40 electoral votes. Ken Paxton will propose that he remain as Attorney General so he can antagonize the Biden administration. And I really think that there are people nationally that would like to see Texas elect a Democrat. It's that important. So number one, please consider contributing to my campaign at Jaworski for Texas. Every amount that you give in the month of May, believe it or not, will be matched by my good friend who I've known since I was 14. His name's Jerry. He's made a lot of money. He's a big liberal and he's upset about his home state. And he is committed to helping me because his dear friend's running for Attorney General. I'm not kidding. He will match everything I raise in May. And so that's number one. Number two, Christy, is relational ground game is what I call it. I mean, when the time comes, we'll be knocking and dragging and we'll ask you guys to help us do this in your precincts. But right now, just take 5 people that come to mind and say, hey, we heard Jaworski. I'm going to send you his website link. Please check it out. I've written everything on there and I've asked people to make it look pretty, but it's my website. And there's a lot of speeches I've written and the priorities were all written by me, not consultants, I promise. Now I have hired some real good consultants, but they're taking orders from the candidate and they're helping me in ways that their expertise can help me. And then I think the third thing to do is help other candidates, because recruit candidates for all your local elections, because they're going to bring their cousins and friends and mother and, you know, everybody they know. And if we have full tickets, we have full ballots up and down, that's just going to be better for all Democrats. So money, relational ground game, send my website to 5 people and recruit people for all open seats. That's my answer.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And there's links in the chat, you guys, for that. Callie, do you want to do the questions or you want me to?
I have some questions that were texted to me, but
Okay, have at it.
Okay, perfect. The first one is question for Joe. If the Republicans, God forbid, heaven forbid, the Republicans in the legislature pass the voter suppression laws that they've come up with this session, can you prevent those crimes from being prosecuted as the AG? I've heard they're trying to make many common voter and poll workers mistake felonies.
Right. So, so first off, it is absolutely certain they've got the votes to pass these outrageous bills. And if they do, of course, will be the shame of the nation, just like Georgia, if Abbott signs them, which I believe they will, because everyone in the primary, like I said at the beginning, the primary is going to be one for the ages, people. It's all going to be, Mr. Trump, pick me, please, Mr. Trump, I'm your man. And let me show you how far right I can be. So it's going to be like that. I promise you, while I'm campaigning, and they know we're breathing down their neck, nonprofits, the Democratic Party, NAACP, LULAC, MALDEF are sharpening their knives. This will be decided in court. To the extent those lawsuits have not resolved by the time I take the oath of office, I'm going to file amicus briefs, get involved on the side of the voters, because you know what? The Attorney General is not the governor's lawyer. The Attorney General is not the legislature's lawyer. He or she is an independent constitutional statewide executive who has a duty of candor to the court. And as a lawyer, as the Attorney General, your only constituency are the people of Texas. If I believe something like a heartbeat bill that passes and they say, go defend it, I don't have to. In fact, I can take the contrary position, believe it or not. Same thing with voting, Callie.
Okay, thank you. The next one is, does the Office of Texas have any jurisdiction over qualified immunity, and would you consider diluting or eliminating it?
Right. So qualified immunity is a judicial remedy. The legislature did not create it. And every case where qualified immunity has been asserted, if the Texas Attorney General wanted to, he or she could file, again, an amicus brief for or against the assertion. Just like Ken Paxton, I mean, literally, it never gets reported, but he literally files an amicus brief in favor of overturning Roe v. Wade in every abortion litigation case in the nation. I mean, he's just not minding his business in Texas. He's bopping around being a culture warrior. But if one wanted to in Texas and do your work at home, for example, to the extent whoever killed Marvin Scott is finally charged or brought in civil court, and qualified immunity is asserted, if the AG wanted to, the AG absolutely could involve the state and take a position. No question about it.
Perfect. Thank you. Next one. If elected, will you participate in an investigation of the Texas power grid, the oversight system, and what happened in February? Will you hold the parties responsible?
Absolutely. Let's remember that the Attorney General's, main job, as put forth in the 1876 Constitution, I mean, it's brief. It's like a paragraph, and it just basically says that you will defend the state and its subparts in court. And I think over time, everyone understood that meant you can also initiate litigation on behalf of the state. And then the legislature over the decades have added things. But ERCOT and that just miserable failure of government. Remember that the Attorney General, it really is like a general counsel to all the divisions and departments in the state. And if you were a general counsel of a corporation, you would not just file litigation and answer it, but you would sort of go around and give advice and make sure that we're meeting standards and not breaking the law. Well, I don't know what you'd call ignoring a report that was created by the federal government and FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, 10 years before this, but you would call it notice for sure. And it is unconscionable that the state ignored it. Now, you can't really sue the state, quote unquote, but you can sue ERCOT. But Ken Paxton has already come out in favor of ERCOT's assertion of sovereign immunity, which is different than qualified immunity, but it's the same notion. Can't sue me. He's already come out with a vanity effort to declare bankrupt Gritty, one of the rip-off energy companies. But I mean, what's he doing these days? He's on Maria Bartiromo talking about the big lie this weekend. Did y'all see that? I mean, I don't know. There's actually a really great Joey Ramone song, Maria Bartiromo. Look it up. It rocks. But, you know, that was a long time ago that he sang that. I mean, she's now just this complete Fox News person. And Paxton has a guest pass at her show. But someone has got to do something about our legislature just kicking the can down the road. I mean, we've got less than 30 days left, and I don't see any solutions. I mean, this could actually happen again next year. So long answer, Callie, but the answer is the Attorney General should not just be suing, but also advising. Well, it's like the foster care system. You know, it's like the prison system. Over the decades, the Attorney General has taken great pains not just to defend lawsuits that are brought, but to get involved and advise the state to do the right thing. Not Ken Paxton, by the way.
Yeah. The next question is actually, it's a foreshadowing of Ken Paxton. As AG, would you be in a position to get money out of Texas politics? How do we prevent corruption? Sure.
I mean, it is remarkable to me that, you know, I have to raise, you know, to be competitive, they say, I mean, there's no like magic number, but, you know, the word I'm hearing is you better raise 15 million. Really? I mean, my God. But apparently that's what it's going to take. And honestly, I mean, Beto showed that you can do it. It's, you know, so raising the money is question one. How you spend it is question two. But it seems to me, we all know this to be true. The whole point of government is that you have the confidence of your people, and gerrymandering, voter suppression, and money, like someone who's got $1 million to give and he spreads it around, well, he or she is going to have more access, and that's not fair. You know, one man, one vote, or, you know, one woman, one vote. But if you've got a checkbook that won't stop, you are literally buying your representative's favor. And apparently, you know, this goes on and on. So I'm sure there's just a lot of bribery going on. We just don't see it. So getting money out of politics would include limits, like federal limits. Like right now, there is no limit. I mean, you could write $1 million check, and that has happened. $100,000 check, $250,000 check. You should see Greg Abbott has lots of $250,000 checks. I mean, who writes that? Who in God's name would write a check for $250,000 to help someone get elected? You know the answer. And so there ought to be a limit. I mean, in federal government, the most you can do right now is $2,900 a cycle. That's the way it ought to be. The law's already been written. We just need to adopt it. And the AG can take a position on that. Maybe I'll be a thought leader on that. That'll be one of the things I'll say when I get elected finally.
Perfect. Christy, do you want to take over from here?
Sure.
The chat?
No problem. I've got just a couple more so far. How do you plan to address gun reform?
Yeah, so that's a sticky one because, you know, we want to get elected, but at the same time, people are being killed, you know, every day. I want to be honest about it. So this is what I say. I'm a mediator. I've not told you what I do for a living, but I mediate every day. And my niche happens to be the Defense Base Act, which is military contractors who are injured in the global war on terror. They're really good servants. And when they get hurt, they have a claim. The insurance company defends it. They finally come to me as a mediator, and we settle these claims. Well, I always say to people who, at the beginning of the mediation, some people get real down and, oh, it's not going to settle. This will never work. Why are we even here? And I always say, hey, tranquilo, baby, you know, one step at a time. And so when I see an intractable argument like on guns, what I want to say to people, even the MAGA crowd, is, hey, wait a minute, one step at a time. Surely we can agree that violent offenders and domestic abusers and the like should not own guns because, you know, they'll use them to commit more violence. So I believe the safe way to have a jurisdiction where there are guns is to at least have background checks universally, red flag laws, and ultimately my goal would be to see that the NRA's original vision, which was training they would never now say that that's, one of their goals. They just want you to have a gun without any requirements. But I think the way to sell guns in Texas and to get in so that we have at least, the population knows that we can pass something in Texas is universal background checks and red flag laws. Honestly, in the end of the day, I think you ought to have insurance if you have a gun. And it's a money thing again, because gun violence costs us all on property tax, because people usually wind up, at the county health district hospital, and that comes out of your property taxes. Well, there ought to be insurance involved in that. But, that'll get me in trouble if I start saying that to people. But guns are an epidemic, and, I like guns to go shoot for fun and, skeet or clay pigeons, hunting. We're a gun state, I get it. But surely we can agree, universal background checks and red flag laws, everyone should be behind that.
Awesome. Great.
Long answer.
No, great answer. And then I think this is the last question we have at this point. So how do you feel you'll be able to connect with rural voters? What's your plan there?
Certainly showing up, Christy, is important. Now, we enjoyed being in Bryan. And what happens is when you go there and reach out to Democrats who have just basically been forgotten in some of these red counties, our strategy is certainly to up the numbers in the cities, but we've identified the top 50 populated, what we'd call red rural counties, and we're going to them. I know there's 254 counties, but it won't do just to say that you went to each county. I mean, you've got to actually drill down, meet the Democratic leadership, and start going there. So we did a test case in Bryan this last weekend, went to some church, had 3 events on a Saturday, and texted 16,000 people in the course of it, because one of your great Dallasites, by the way, Selena Vasquez, y'all remember her? Well, she's now a JP, the first Democrat elected in red Brazos County. She's a JP, has a huge jurisdiction. Well, we hooked up with her and we got connected to her machine. So things are happening. So rural Texas, you got to be present. So we've identified the top 50, and that's going to take a year plus to go to, but we're going to do it. And then, Christy, substance. Cannabis is a cash crop, Medicaid to sustain the rural hospitals, and broadband. Got to have broadband out there for the agricultural machine signal, telemedicine, and of course, remote learning, because some kids have to be on the bus for like an hour. So there's going to be more remote learning. And so I think that is an important way to reach out to rural Texas. But there's a lot of Democrats out there that just don't get consulted, and we're going to do it.
Absolutely. I totally agree. We've been out there, in different counties around here working and trying to help them organize, and they're hungry. The folks that are out there are hungry for somebody to root for. So
like Rockwall County.
Yeah. Rockwall, Wood County, Hunt County, Kaufman, they're out there, and they're increasing their voter turnout. So it's great that you're getting out there.
We're actually going to Kaufman later in May. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, great. I think that was all of the questions. Chris, do you want to do one more round of trivia before we do our last announcements?
I don't think I have any more. I mean, he knocked it out of the park. He already got the magnet.
We didn't. We already did them.
Yeah, I think.
I forgot we did Star Wars too. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to know what was on his mug there.
Oh, so it is. Yeah. Hold on. Let's see. It's now hold on. I don't know. Yeah. Can you see that? It's like a little. Right. It's a little cat. A little French mug. I'm having tea. Right. I'm not drinking vodka. I promise.
I didn't ask what was in the mug, Joe.
Yeah, I know. Man, you guys really stressed me out.
We weren't going to push you on that.
Yeah. Everybody else here is drinking vodka.
Well, so. I just, you always wonder when you watch people on Letterman and stuff. You just always are like, I don't know. Well, this is a fun crowd, and we absolutely should be doing this in person. But honestly, all kidding aside, thank God for Zoom. This has allowed me to reach out to so many people. I mean, thousands now, when you add up the whole number of events. This is number 61, thousands. And, there'll be plenty of time to do things in person, but revving up early is important. These Republicans are all going to be challenged, okay?
Absolutely.
They're all going to be challenged. Amen.
Absolutely. And we really want to have you back General Jaworski. We really want to have you back when we're in person. And I don't know what you know about the feds, but we are a force to be reckoned with. We put stickers on 200,000 doors in 2020, and we have great block walkers, we have great volunteers, and so as you start doing your live tour, please come back, and we will definitely hook up with you, and we'll fight for you.
Oh, Christy, you got it. No, I mean, you're legendary. And Elaine was very kind to reach out to me and get this process started. And I'm so glad you did, Elaine. What we do have, we're going to get a merch store put up. We premiered our new T-shirts. And I wish I had a picture, but oh my God, the green ones. We got green ones and white ones, but the green pops. I mean, it pops. And for the women, we have like the V-neck, and because I said, if we're going to do shirts, let's do it right. And so we're going to have a merch store going in any day now. And I told them we got to have bumper stickers. I've seen a couple of people mention that. I mean, it really gets, the MAGA crowd in their trucks hot under the collar when you have a good bumper sticker. So be careful. But we'll have some. And then I think, Callie, don't you have some palm cards that you can mail to the leadership of Fed?
I do. I have your mailing address, and if you haven't received them, you will have them within the week.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Thank you.
Well, everybody, that is our meeting, and we appreciate Joe coming. We appreciate everybody being here. Joe, I'm doing something myself, and our colors are exactly the same, so we'll have to hook up at some point.
Awesome. Okay, you got it. And just for fun, y'all check my band out. I mean, this is like 40 years ago, but there's still a couple of songs that sound like they might be on the radio. Other Bright Colors. And we had kind of an REM sound. We were out at North Carolina where I went to college, and I mean, it was a great experience. And I'm not kidding you that just the getting around America and connecting to people, I feel like I'm doing that again. So I love that. And we're going to have fun doing this. I mean, this is serious as a heart attack, but we are going to have fun doing this, by God.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So everybody come off mute for a second. Let's give them a big round, some claps, some snaps, anything. We are here for you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.
Yep. And if anybody has anything to yell out, we'll stay on just for a few minutes, and then we'll kind of sign off here in about 5 minutes. Okay.
Awesome.
I have a question. Do we think Beto is going to run for governor?
I wish he would. Do I think? I asked him straight up, and he's coy about it right now, and there's still a part of me that thinks he might, because he's just waiting for this maximum moment, or maybe he's got a grand plan. But here's why I think he still might, because we know he can raise a lot of money real fast. He's got a very mature network, and he's actually deploying it right now, powered by people. And so I think he still could. And certainly, Greg, maybe he wants to see who the Republican is who's running against him. That might be a nice little trick. I read that he wants to wait and see if Matthew McConaughey is going to run. And my only view on that is, if we get an actor who's our governor, I think we need to have like a little subset election where we all decide which character of the actor is the governor. And my view is, I want the True Detective season 1 dude as governor, cutting the can, during press conferences. I want that.
That's awesome. Well, we did have a conversation that if Beto and you and of course Mike run, then you guys can go on the road, right? You're going to be on the road anyway. So you play. I understand that Mike Collier plays the trumpet.
I love it. I didn't know that. Beto. I know Beto plays bass or guitar. So
right?
we could get we can do a horn section. It'll be like Pavement or something.
Right.
No,
Man, did you have a question?
Yeah, well, actually, some good news, a little announcement. You mentioned Alan West. Alan West's wife, Angela West, ran for City Council District 3 in Garland, and she got creamed.
Good.
And the top 2 vote getters that are going to run off are both people that had quartered the Democratic vote. There are a lot of Democratic. It was a nonpartisan election, but Democrats got out, walked, walked, and got it done. It wasn't even close. I mean, she barely broke 10%. It was like 10, 12.
Oh, fabulous.
And so that's good news because that was setting up for something getting ugly for some other stuff too. So we beat Allen West in his own hometown. And
Oh, that's good
and
news.
it also shows that he might be loud and obnoxious, but he's a terrible campaigner. His people did not know what they're doing. Christie could run circles around whoever ran that campaign. So, so I just want to give you guys some good news. Some good news.
I did have one announcement that I forgot to mention. The Lake Highlands White Rock Democrats picnic is on May 15th, and that's going to be at Flagpole Hill from 11 to 2. There's going to be a lot of elected officials and candidates, so they're actually, you know, they're going to be out there, and there's plenty of room out there, but it'll be a live event if you guys want to stop by. So, all right, I think that's it, guys. I know we love each other and it's so hard not to be together, and we could just sit and stare at each other forever because we miss each other so much. But I promise I really think that the next month we're going to have a live outdoor event, and I'm excited. I can't wait. All right. You guys have a good one. Talk to everybody soon. Thank you so much, Joe Jaworski and Callie, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Oh, you guys are great. It's these clubs that matter. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Christy.